Hi, welcome to my channel where we question everything. Today's topic is bits and pieces, and we're going to talk a little bit about recent meetings that Putin had and his visit to Belarus. Hey. Anyways, last week Putin had some meetings with the military commanders that were involved in the Ukrainian SMO, and basically he talked to Shoigu and Gerasimov, and also with other heads of military commands, and basically he wanted to find out what their plans were, their ideas about the conflict, and how the SMO was going. And after that, apparently, Shoigu left to inspect the troops on the Ukrainian front, and then also Shoigu went to Minsk, as well as Putin and as well as Lavrov. And now there's a lot of speculations on what these guys are doing there. And there's even some theory presented or narrative presented by Douglas McGregor that the Russians will open a second front and that they might enter Ukraine from Belarus in the direction of Kiev and simultaneously start an offensive in the east. Now, I know there's a lot of speculations. There's very little information really available. We will probably not know what has been discussed, so we can only make estimates or present our view of the situation. And that is what I would like to do today. Well, one has to think what is the part of the year at this stage. We are in Christmas season. It is a Christian festival, and we know that Putin and Russia are honoring or celebrating Christmas, and that is important for them, especially since Putin has hammered on the Orthodox Church and family values and traditions and Russian culture. So we are basically in a festive mood. And I believe that, number one, Shoigu went to the Ukrainian front in order to inspect and meet up with some of the soldiers in the spirit of Christmas and holidays. Well, not holidays, festive season, sorry, not everybody has holidays. And see how the morale is of the troops and how they are progressing, and basically showing his face to the troops. And then he, per se, went to Minsk in Belarus, and some commentators tried to combine Shoigu's meeting with the intentions of Putin and Lavrov. I don't believe so. There was in October not a huge, but a significant Russian military contingent that has moved to Belarus, and currently the estimated numbers are about 9,000 Russian troops, and they would train in conjunction with Belarusian army, which I believe is somewhere in a total of 35,000 or 40,000 troops and equipment. And again, I believe the visit by Shoigu to Minsk was to go and inspect the Russian troops, see how their morale is, give them a nice pep talk, maybe distribute some presents or letters and stuff like that from the home. But in any case, all in the spirit of the festive season. I don't believe that Shoigu has anything really to do with Putin's visit or Lavrov. Maybe a little bit. The reason why, basically why, well, I cannot support the idea that the Russians will, in any case, try to open a second front and attack again Kiev from the Belarusian landmass. Firstly off, the Ukrainian army has indicated that they are prepared for this type of invasion. And the point is, in any case, Russia has never indicated that they will like to conquer Kiev. And it wouldn't be, from a military point of view, in my opinion, it wouldn't be very sensible. If I really wanted to do an attack from Belarus, I would rather go and try to conquer the areas west of Kiev in order to cut off the supply lines from NATO weapons and logistical support and food and fuel and so on. So that would have made me a lot more sense in that respect, but not attacking Kiev itself. But then we never know what the Russians are planning. But having 9,000 troops in Belarus is not sufficient to launch an attack. And Lukashenko has always indicated he's not going to get involved in the Ukrainian war. He has always abstained, but he has expressed his fear in the last couple of months that there's a NATO troop build up at his border, and he fears an invasion of NATO in his country. How serious that threat is, I'm not sure. I don't believe it's that serious because, again, if NATO enters Belarus, then Belarus has a defensive agreement with Russia, and then it's a war, a third world war between Russia and NATO, and nobody really wants that. So there's no, in my opinion, again, I believe that that Putin and Lavrov are there for political reasons, to discuss political issue, and they would try to subdue, is that the right word? Lukashenko's fear that they might get involved. I think Russia would respect Belarus in any case far too much in order to force him to support the military SMO in Ukraine and use Belarusian troops for that purpose. Because why would Belarusian citizens die for the Russian cause and the donations? So I cannot see the logic in that scenario. Again, the weapons are too little. The Russian soldiers are only 9,000. That's a too small a force. And if the Belarusian becomes involved in the Ukrainian war, then the chances of Poland crossing that border becomes a lot more significant. So I'm sorry, I cannot support that idea, that narrative. Another thing that it also creates another nightmare of logistics and etc., etc. And also, if you look at the aircrafts that were sent to Belarus in a couple of months back, those were all in order to strengthen the Polish border between Poland and Belarus. So again, I don't see any attack coming from that side. And I don't understand why anybody wants to create a narrative, because it doesn't make any military logical sense. But Lavrov and Putin could also go there to talk some politics. And I'm not sure what they would talk about. But then nobody really knows. And it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that they want to convince Lukashenko to join them. Russia has enough resources to do it on its own. In any case. So I think this whole 4 meetings is like a feedback system. It's a PR system for the general to visit the troops. It's a political meeting in Belarus to pacify no, not pacify. Also not ensure calm down Lukashenko's fears and so on. So I think nothing will come from this. It was also high time for Putin to get really knowledgeable about what is happening in Ukraine. The Russians have fairly lost a large part of the initial ground that they have conquered. There are some small battles still going on. You know, it's a story about Bakhmut and around Donetsk city and so on. Apparently, Marinka has been taken over by the Russians. And there is some talk that it might influence the bombardment of Donetsk city, but we will have to see that. I always say that that should have been a priority. But yeah, Russians, people had different view. I also thought that after the withdrawal from Kherson, that Surovikin will try to go back to basics, consolidate all the generals and all the military plans under his command, get the necessary logistics into place, get the necessary reinforcements into place, and then slowly start to progress to the west and so on. I have to agree, looking at all the factors and the fact that Putin has indicated as well, this is not going to be a short war. This is going to be a fairly long, detracted, and I will make a separate video about how I think it will progress. What bothers me a little bit about is this meat grinder narrative. That's a very cruel way of stating a situation where men die and where men are wounded and lose their legs and arms and maimed. And if it's talking about the meat grinding, it's always a one-sided narrative. It's the Russians that are, well, it's the Ukrainians that are attacking, the Russians are bombarding, and the Ukrainians are dying. And I'm sorry, that it doesn't work like that. I'm totally sure it doesn't work like that. If the Russians want to advance, then they have to also attack. And if they are attacked, then the Ukrainians will defend. So Russian soldiers will also die. It's not Ukrainian soldiers only dying, it's Russian soldiers also dying. And if again with the meat grinder is the story from the Ukrainians are attacking, the Russians are bombarding them with artillery pieces and aviation, and then only the Ukrainians die. But nobody talks about the Ukrainians who also have artillery and who are shooting back. And they also have counter-battery radars. Because we have seen it that the Russians have destroyed the American version. So there is artillery fire from the one side, artillery fire from the other side, and then on both sides, people are dying. It's not only Ukrainian soldiers. And I'm still wondering about all these numbers that are being produced. Firstly, I don't believe them. And secondly, people die in a war, and if those numbers are correct, then it's not a huge loss in terms compared to other big conflicts in the history. I always said that, other narratives talk about the Ardennes offensive. Ardennes offensive was over 6-7 weeks, and more than 400,000 soldiers died. And that's a proper number, a horrific number. But 20, 30 a day, it doesn't know. In any case, currently the whole conflict is frozen, effectively. The Russians are firing missiles. The question is, we don't hear really what type of missiles. There is the caliber and so on. When they mount, they shoot it from the fleet, the Black Sea Fleet. They shoot some missiles. I can understand that. Those will be the bigger ones. Are they shooting some of the land-based missiles? I'm not totally sure. Because there's no real detail about that. They don't tell us what they are firing. And they are probably also using UIVs, suicide drones, that Geronimo, what? I don't know, I can't remember what his real name is, that long distance UIV. But they are still hammering the infrastructure. The question is, why are they still doing it? Are there so many points that they can, military targets that they can destroy it? But at this stage, while getting ready and planning them, they are probably doing the missile strikes. The question is, will there be a big offensive? Well, I will discuss it in a different video about military affairs, and if I was a commander, what I would have done. Doesn't mean I'm right, doesn't mean I'm an expert. It's just a narrative, because it seems to me everybody is talking narratives and ideas and opinions. So I might as well join the queue. The crowd, sorry, not the queue, the crowd. So at this stage, I don't think much is going to happen. I don't see the reason for any heist. Well, that's my story then for today. Well, I just read an article about the visit of Putin and Lavrov and Soigu to Belarus. And basically, it's an article about Belarus receiving Iskander missile complexes, as well as the S-400 system to protect these Iskander complexes. And basically, here it is clearly stated that Putin, as well as the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and the Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu, arrived in Belarus on Monday for a series of talks with their counterparts regarding economic, military, and energy cooperation. At their press conference, the Russian president revealed that the two countries have already established an integrated air defense and warning systems, of which the S-400 batteries are a crucial element. So as you can see, they didn't go there to arrange for Belarus to enter the Ukrainian war. Neither are they preparing for a second front to attack Kiev. So I'm not totally sure where all the pro-Russian commentators are getting the information from, or are they dreaming or whatever. But they're also living in a fantasy world, trying to find out meaning behind every single news event. What is clearly here, indicated by this move is that Putin thinks that NATO will enter the war, or there's a good chance that that will happen. And he's preparing Belarus up front for this type of attack. Because if an attack will be launched through Poland. And the S-400 batteries are there to protect against any aircraft entering the Belarusian airspace, as well as being an early warning system for an attack by NATO. And the Iskander one is a complex out there for immediate retaliation on certain critical items, especially the ones in Romania and Poland. That's a missile complex of the Americans that has been erected there, etc., etc., etc. So this is a preparational type of event. But who the hell am I to know? It seems to me that everybody's believing the know-how, the Alexander Mercurius, the Duran, the, I don't know, Larry Johnson, Andrei Martinov, Brian Bereletic, even our Colonel Douglas McGregor, who's predicting a... If you want to believe them, please go ahead. So, if you like what you heard, please subscribe, tell your friends, spread the word, and until next time, cheers.